And showtime. We're having quite a few issues with just client things, but we will see how it goes. Ooh. Hmm. All right, looks like things are finally getting a bit sorted out. A lot of client issues, which is why we are starting about 20 minutes behind schedule, but thank you all for bearing with it and joining in on this Monday night. I know there's two series today. The other one, Bop It Twist It Gank It versus Caster Curse, I believe. We are in the week 3 round robin. And people always hating on the icons. Just makes it easier to click. That's it, gentlemen. Right there, I can't miss it. I'd throw it right back. Why would you have small icons? I can't taste anything, actually. You may have to hit me a little harder. Oh no! Left the lobby, but he's still in the lobby. Oh goodness, this just gets better and better, doesn't it? See how things get sorted out. Hopefully get into draft soon at the very least. As I was saying, Solid versus Misfits, week 3. Two teams at 1-1 here, so should be pretty interesting. It was quite a large gap, or not a large gap, a large group in the middle of the pack at the end of week 2. A lot of teams at 1-1. Since then, things have kind of shaken up a little bit. Spoiler alert, but Capachungus Deluxe and Big Brains All Mechanics both won 2-0 over Happy Jellyfish and MTE. So taking a look at the standings right now, this is where we're at with Solid and Misfits. Right in the thick of things alongside Caster Curse, who are playing together against Bop It Twist It Gank It. Opted to cast this one over the other one just because I haven't had the chance to cast either of these two teams. So a lot funner to kind of see them holistically, be there for the whole journey, client problems and all. And taking a look at power rankings as well. These two teams are right next to each other at the 5th and 6th spot respectively. So as a reminder, I believe it's top 4 who make playoffs. So always something to keep in the back of your mind there. How are you going to really break apart from this group here? Find your way into the top 4? Because that's what all these teams are going to be looking to do. too much feet talk for me. I think we're finally getting in lobby. All right, awesome. It is a Monday. It's just a client. So draft is live. Got Misfits and Solid. See what bands get exchanged. As a reminder, if you are in the Discord, Pens is putting together a huge kind of list of match results and drafts. So it's a great reference to use week to week if you would like to kind of see what other teams are banning, see what's being picked in order, see kind of how games played out, where strong points were, because I know Battlefy is still unfortunately down. Misfits lost 2-1 last week. Some long games in that series as well. And it looks like first round of bans coming through. Malzahar, Siversena. I like those bans on the side of Misfits. Just 3 kind of easy to navigate scaling champions. Get those off the table. Allow yourself to first pick this Caitlyn, who, you know, really doesn't have... There's no great answer into Caitlyn now other than maybe something like a Jhin. Jinx is alright too. You just want something with range if you're going to be matching that Caitlyn. Something in the bottom lane there to kind of have a chance in what is a typical very strong lane bully. And then for Team Solid, their first round of bans, we see Mel, Aphelios, and Diana just taking away some comfort on the side of Misfits. That's something just based off what they play, what's on the OBGG, just picks they didn't want to play against. Understandably so. Trying to look at the bans for Team Solid last week. There it is. But talking jungle picks, I presume jungle picks at least, we see Kane coming through for Misfits, so a little bit of spice there. And the Elise for Team Solid. Morgana going to round out the bot lane for Misfits. Caitlyn Morg, classic bot lane combo there. You know, not a huge fan of Morgana sometimes with how she can be abused into mage support matchups, but I think in general, when you have the Caitlyn, when you see that you're into a Jinx, just locking the Morgana to have something with an easy setup into the root there is going to be great. And then on the flip side, Team Solid locking in Thresh, Squeezy going for a bit of a bold pick here, especially into the Morgana. At Thresh, it's going to be interesting to see how he pulls this one out, because it's a tough pick to navigate into a spell shield. You know, those cooldowns kind of line up, and if the Misfits support Rhaegar is on top of things, nobody should ever be at drastic threat of a hook. And then you're kind of dealing with slowly getting pushed in by the Caitlyn, and more at threat on the Morgana side of the all-in with that binding, followed by what are bound to be some traps laid down and just a huge chunk of damage coming through. So looking at the rest of the bans, Team Solid targeting one top laner with the Alawi there. That tells me they may be looking towards something like a tank, something that, you know, you don't really want to play against Alawi. Misfits banning Pantheon for their 4th ban. Just a really strong comfort pick and kind of keep Team Solid away from an easy to execute point and click CC comp in the Pantheon Elise Thresh, which is already a lot of early game burst damage through the Elise. So Aurora Band's going to come through next. Just once again, a really strong mid laner as of late. I've been a huge Aurora fan. I feel like that champ should be picked more. Just loads of damage with the electrocute, and you can go the Roa build and honestly be pretty tanky too. Kind of allow yourself some liberty with some missteps. But that one's going to be knocked off the table, so we'll see what mid laner of Team Solid Zelda guy has in his pocket. They are saving the R5 counter pick for mid lane. Typically you see that saved for either of the solo laners, but in this case, when you're picking something like the Ornn, which isn't really surprising when you look at the bans Team Solid had in this second phase of the Mordekaiser and the Alawi, those are two picks that work very strongly into tanks, so lock that Ornn, should be relatively safe blind, especially after those bans, and then save your counter pick for this mid lane, who is now going to be going into Ahri. Good AP champ, good safe pick on the side of Misfits as well. And it looks like Cassante will round out things for the Misfits side. And we'll see what Zelda guy has in their pockets here. I think ideally we're looking at something with some ability power, just to have a more appropriate damage spread and to help build space for Jinx. You've kind of set yourself up for a pretty standard front to back comp. So you have this tank Ornn, you have this marksman Jinx, and then from there I'd kind of want to pick around that and start to build space for a backline. So something like a Hui, just a control mage to really keep things in line there. I think that's a great idea. It was locked in. That is just kind of a fearlessdraft.net bug. So drafts are there for both teams here, and game one may be starting about 30 minutes after official start time, but we made it there. Thank you all for sticking around. Oh, just kidding. We're waiting another 4 minutes. Tough scenes. Gotta have the food. Yeah, why don't you feast on the blood of your enemies? Just go ahead and kill that Ahri a bunch of times. They'll feed you. That's the mentality you need to have. Alright, I guess I could talk about draft a little bit. Really pinching me here with quite a bit of monologuing just between all the games. Food, client problems, just standard League of Legends gamer things. So, looking at the draft, I like the Caitlyn first pick, I like the Jinx answer, followed by the Elise jungle pick. I have no issue with kind of how the first phase of the draft went, except for Team Solid's Thresh pick. I see that pick, and I'm just not too comfortable in what you're getting with it. I think it's very high risk, low reward. I don't think Thresh is in a good spot. I don't think he has been for a while, and I say that as a very much a Thresh enthusiast. It's just one of those picks because of all the nerfs, because of how pro played skewed it is. I think it's pretty tough to actually execute on the pick well. I know it is maybe a bit more of a comfort champ for Squeezy. Got a few games on that champ in past seasons. Not a great win rate, and I will say it does pair well with the Jinx because you have the Lantern available, and Jinx is a mobile AD carry, so you're looking to ultimately peel for that. But this is going to be a lane that should be very Caitlyn Morgana favored. I said Morgana is going to be able to spell shield the hook, death sentence, and that is really the only chance that Team Solid have in the bot lane, as oh, the amount of R's that have been dropped in this chat, incredible. All right, well, we're live. I hope we're good because a wait came in at the very last second there. Uh, but as I was saying, going back to this bot lane, the way Team Solid plays it out, they really only have all-in kill pressure. Misfits are, gonna beat them in the poke game just because of the double rage, because of Caitlyn's kind of superior auto attacking. Granted, it can come down to execution. I'm not saying it's not possible. But when you're dealing with all-in, and your all-in is Thresh into a Morgana, in theory, if spell shields are all coming down appropriately, it's going to be very tough to execute appropriately on that and really get a clean engage off. So I'm a little, hesitant to have a let's see to call Team Solid's number here. In fact, I'll wager some points on Misfits. Just a few. Put my money where my mouth is. They're going to be a draft, and then we're going to go through the 3-minute spectator delay, ensure competitive integrity. Looking at the rest of the draft, though, Elise, I like the Elise pick. I like to see that on the side of Cyanic. He's executed pretty well on it in the past, and, seems to be a comfort champ. Can get the ball rolling in the early game for this Team Solid squad, who have drafted mostly late game. So you want to have, something you can play through early on, and that's what that Elise is going to be. I think Cyanic has quite a big job ahead of themselves to get his team off the ground, but once that happens, and if that can happen, and they can really accelerate into the scaling side of the game, they actually stand a decent shot. As in the late game, I do just like how Team Solid's comp plays. I feel like one reset for the Jinx and the spacing you are in theory able to get behind the Ornn is going to be far superior to the backline damage output that Misfits have. Kayn for the side of, I believe, jungling is going to be... I can just check. How I Met My ADC has been jungling a little bit recently. Looks like was a support main kind of beforehand, but making the switch. Not necessarily a hard switch, both macro focused roles. So all about just kind of learning jungle patterns, jungle timings. Keep my eye on that Kayn and see, how the Kayn can keep pace with the Elise. Because Kayn's a power farming. These are two junglers that play opposite styles. Kayn's a power farmer. Elise is a power ganker, as I like to say. So if the Elise can really snowball and kind of make advantages happen early, it's going to be looking good for Cyanic. If not, and How I Met My ADC is able to just farm up safely, get form in decent time, those mid-game skirmishes are going to be looking quite favorable for the Misfits side. Looking at the top lane, as that's what was kind of picked next. Saw the Ornn blind pick coming through. Big fan of that. I think it just rounds out the draft pretty nicely with what you were at least looking to do. And Ornn, relatively easy champ of execution in terms of team fights. And the answer to that is the Cassante, and that's not necessarily a pick that's going to slam down into the Ornn. You're going to be pretty comfortable navigating that and kind of matching the scaling, but Ornn's... I hold that Ornn outscales. I think Cassante is just a bit more difficult to execute. If you can, you have a bit more agency on that top side, but when it comes to the team play, that Ornn's going to be a lot more favorable. And then in the mid lane, what ultimately rounded up the draft, see the Ahri out of Sokka. Quite all right with that. I like the pick. I think it's a safe, blind mid lane counter pick, and it really gives you something to play around in the mid jungle. because you have this Ari that can play with the Kayn in these skirmishes, and you kind of set yourself up for a bit of a dive comp, at least with the top side of the map. And on the flip side, the Hui in the mid lane for Zelda. A bit of a power pick for him. So I'm being told by CLT in the chat here. Quite a good win rate, honestly. Last season, looks like 26 games, 73% win rate. Not too many games on it this season, but definitely looks to be a kind of seasoned pick for the mid laner of Team Solid. Hui is going to be a good answer into the Ari, and it just sets yourself up for that backline kind of style. So two clashing styles here. A solid front to back for the TS squad, and for the Misfits, you know, getting a little outside of the box, going for some dive. Going to look to kind of pounce in on the Jinx and the Hui, and it's going to be a tall task to see how they're able to kind of survive through that. Gonna run a quick ad before we run into game. That way, hopefully, it doesn't interrupt the actual gameplay. About a minute left on the spectator delay, so that will kind of help with that. Yeah, the LOLMidwest is monetized. Kind of get into the big leagues now. Look at that. Loading into the client here. Taking a look. Great skin game out of Misfits. Have to point that out. Just looking clean altogether. And not a bad one on the other side as well. I'm a Deep Terror Thresh fan as well, Squeezy. Just the classic, the OG. We can't beat it. Summoner spell-wise, no cleanse on the Jinx. I think that would have been a reasonable summoner spell to at least consider. When you're dealing into the Morgana, that's the main way you're going to die. But going for the barrier, also some good survivability. The other thing I want to point out is Zelda guy is running Ghost on the Hui. I think that's a pretty kind of interesting pick here. Don't usually see that too much. Ping's coming down early. It looks like we may have a bit of an invade. So we'll get into that. Stack, rather, on the side of Misfits. And a 5-point on the side of Team Solid. So ultimately, nothing too much happening. And we see the top laner is going to kind of cancel the back there and make his way all right. So the way I expect this game to kind of play out, it's going to be on Cyanic to make something happen on this Spider. You know, we'll see if they go for anything a bit more cheesy to get an early gank off, but this Kayn should be full clearing. Does have Dark Harvest, so could be looking towards blue form. I think that'd be reasonable. You're dealing with at least 3 range in Hui, Jinx, and Thresh. and that Elise is going to be pretty squishy as well. The only front line that Team Solid has is that Ornn. And then if they can get to the mid game, Misfits, without really being too far behind or being in a spot to fight, I really like their mid game fights, as see a bit of a trade going in the bottom lane, but like their mid game fights just because of all the skirmishing potential, looking at the Ahri, the Kayn, all that mobility that's going to come through. So unless the side of Team Solid can, Team Solid can actually land that chain CC that they've kind of drafted for with the Thresh, the Elise, I think it will be Misfits' favored skirmishes. If we do get to the late game, though, that is going to be all Team Solid. You take a look, it's Ornn, it's Jinx, it's Sway. And with the way kind of the meta, if you will, of the Midwest Rec League has been shaping up, it's been a lot of late games. So kind of see how that all ends up getting pieced together. Hook misses in the bottom lane. I like to see Rhaegar kind of try to step up and look to punish that, as Lolcats and Comeback Season are not getting as much of a push as I would have maybe expected when I first saw these picks. A lot of that is due to Seven just good spacing back, good trading back. See those kind of big rockets coming through. But once that Morgana ticks over to level 2, level 3, gets the Black Shield available, I think that's going to help her kind of hold her own. So the push coming down now. It does look like both junglers are going to full clear. Kayn was spotted out a bit earlier on the Raptors, but both junglers full clearing up, so we may have a bit of a fight in the Scuttle Pit area. Wallaford has the push right now. Did place a ward in the Tribush. Bot lane's going to remain a 2v2 for now. And in the mid lane, Zelda guy slowly building up a bit of a lead just by nature of pushing in. Ping's coming down in the Scuttle, though. Cyanic is spotted out. Both junglers level 3. Skipped one camp. Wallaford's going to be first to the collapse, though. Going to force Cyanic out. And in comes Sokka Sr. getting the inside track as well. Charm is going to be repelled away from wisely. Cyanic Acid dropping down and walking out. Great escape from the side of Team Solid's jungler, despite the fact that he was pounced on by some good rotations on the side of Misfits. The solo laners of Misfits using their push well, helping secure that Scuttle for the Kayn, but it's just going to be traded back on the opposite side by Cyanic, going for that bottom lane Scuttle. Charm and some poke lands down onto Zelda guy. But this game is not looking too crazy just yet. I don't expect much action in the individual lanes. I think maybe just kind of subtle leads being built up. This game will really break open once we see some mid-game skirmishes, and for that, it will be about who can get to these objectives first. Especially if your team's solid, when you have these long CC abilities in the Thresh, in the Elise, you're going to be setting yourself up. Great Fear connects onto How I Met My ADC, canceling that gank. Cannon is secured as well. Around these objective fights, pay attention to who gets there first, as things like the Ahri and the Morgana, great pounce potential against the Thresh, and the Elise, also great potential, kind of bounce potential. So it's going to be about who can get the push, who can kind of establish prio. Hook lands in the bottom lane, but Cyanic S in the mid lane is going to catch Sokka with the Cocoon. Sokka flashing out, but a repel over the charm is going to be enough for first blood. Going over to Cyanic. Walks up, lands the Cocoon. Played that damn good. Repelling over the charm. And getting his mid laner off to a bit of an early lead as Binding connects. Ignite drops down. Traps as well. Into another trap. Into the net. Headshot after headshot. Lolcats pouncing right back. 1 for 1. And a flash. Binding from Rhaegar as well. But the trap doesn't quite come down in time from Lolcats. V7 walking out without their summoners. And now Lolcat's going to be able to hit this tower for a little bit, despite Cyanic Acid trying to kind of ward the bot lane of Misfits away. Steps on the trap, though. V7, he's in trouble. Don't know if he didn't see it, but that little cupcake right next to the tower locks him in place, and from there, Lolcats, the Sheriff, Piltover Peacemaker comes through, and it's enough damage alongside the headshot. So now Kane's going to be able to get this dragon for free for the side of Misfits. thanks to the prio that they've had in the bot lane. In the top lane, Walliford trading a little aggressively back. Is going to call the all-out onto Souls. Trading pretty aggressively. Souls forced to dash out. Walliford still going forward in a trade of flashes. In sync there. Both top laners knew exactly what the angle was. Well played to them. Fun little skirmish to watch. Souls trading back a bit more damage, but falling dangerously low while doing so. Call of the Forge God into the knockup combo, into the brittle combo. 2 brittle stacks right there, but doesn't quite have enough damage right now. Nope, a clap comes down. One last W will do it. Souls finding the solo kill onto Walliford. Pretty tight 1v1 there up in the top side, including flashes, including some ultis. A good one. A Spirit Rush coming on forward, able to dodge out of the way ulti. Zelda guy forced to now ghost out. Sokka Sr. has 2 charges of the Spirit Rush left. Not going to be quite enough to close the gap onto Zelda. And in the bottom lane, V7 getting the Feet of Warfare. We can watch that one back real quick. Imagine just Squeaksy able to connect on this hook here. Threading the needle through the minions and then placing Rhaegar under tower. Don't blame him for not spell shielding there. As in the mid lane, Sokka Sr. no Spirit Rush, but Zelda guy is pretty chunk, so not much follow-up from Cyanic Acid. Cocoon is going to miss. This Kayn is over the wall here, baiting in the Elise. And that will be the end of that little skirmish. Yeah, great little duel in the top lane. Love to see that, as both top laners really pushing the limit, and Souls knowing the champion there. Great little Ornn combo. Yes, they exist. Ornn combos do exist. Chain CCing by placing down that Q pillar. The E dash forward into knockup 1, into the ulti for knockup 2. And the W coming back off cooldown, that brittle breath, to have that passive damage be enough to just barely come out on top over Walliford. Cyanic Acid showing face here too. How I Met Your ADC get quite chunked down. All out comes down onto Elise, and How I Met My ADC forced to flash out, queuing back in, but the slash is going to be just short. Cyanic Acid flashes back forward, and another hook under tower onto Rhaegar comeback. The damage is not going to be able to trade it back from Lolcats, and now Walliford's in trouble as well. Just kidding. Turns it right back onto Cyanic. Is falling dangerously low to Zelda guy. Does drop. Souls doing work in this team fight here. Jinx Rocket comes through as well for good measure. And skirmishing breaking out all across the map here. Another hook under tower out of Squeezy. These spell shields are just not coming in time. Squeezy finding the angles in the top side. Just stronger skirmishing out of the Elise rather than the Kayn. This Kayn is very early on. Doesn't really have any stacks. Doesn't have form yet. And until King gets form, I mean, he's just not really a champion, right? Spirit Rush going on forward, though. Does connect on the Zelda guy with the charm. And the Spirit Rush V2 is going to be enough there to close the gap, even after Zelda guy's flash. I'm liking what I'm seeing out of Sokka. Not afraid to pull the trigger. Use this Spirit Rush aggressively. A lot of the times we see Aries kind of hold on to that ability just to let themselves stay alive should any gank come through. But Sokka's using it aggressively, forcing summoners out, and this time getting a solo kill onto Zelda guy. About a 1k gold lead for the side of Misfits. That means nothing this early on. 500 of that in the top lane, a little bit of that in the jungle. And then kind of a bit even everywhere else. We'll all continue to scale. Next dragon spawns in a minute 20. I'd maybe expect a little bit of a fight around that, as Walliford going to trade for potentially some more grass stacks. This Kayn is really not too close to form yet either, so needs to get on the map, needs to get some fights going, start to build towards what looks like it'll be blue form, but I know there is a bit of versatility there. Goes in, gets the slash onto the Elise, but just doesn't have enough damage right now, and Cyanic Acid is holding face. Zelda guy coming in for the collapse as well. The Umbral Trespass going to heal him up a little bit, but it's not going to be enough as Zelda guy picks that one up. Bit overzealous on the side. How I Met My ADC is Sokka Sr. tries to clean up the Elise. Not going to be able to do so. Kayn just going in there, not respecting that Elise base damage. Especially as a squishy early game Kayn here. Gets punished. Zelda guy able to pick up a pretty easy kill. Dark Binding's going to be just short. As more just kind of trade a farm in the bottom lane here. Souls going on in onto Walliford again. A lot of kind of aggressive trading, at least it looks like in the top lane, but with these two beefy tanks, it doesn't really result in anything. Once these resistances come through. Deadman's played interesting enough. Hook, though, first onto Rhaegar, who flashes on forward, going for the engage onto V7, but does get popped with the Super Mega Death Rocket before that ulti comes off and can connect with the stun. So Rhaegar going aggressively there, going for the comeback, and V7 caught with their pants down. Walking into that control warded bush, just no vision, and Sokka Sr. there to punish. So I'm really looking at Sokka Sr. and Lolcats on the side of Misfits right now. They've been kind of the two shining stars of the game so far. At least for the Misfits side. Able to really bring their team some success, whether through these skirmishes, through kind of just taking initiative in these plays, which is always great to see out of your carries. And on the other side, Souls on this Ornn, 2 kills and out farming the Cassante, which was a counter pick. Ornn obviously very safe blind, it's not a huge deal, but once again, this control warded bush is going to result in a very chunked out Cyanic Acid. Was forced to repel and walk away with a little over 300 health left, and this gives the inside track. Like I said, first to the objective are Misfits, so they're going to be comfortably able to start this one up. Zelda guy with the fear coming on through, forces the barrier out of Lolcats. Not going to be quite enough damage to fall on, but the Super Mega Death Rocket comes in from the river. Snipe in, and that looks like it's going to force Misfits out of the pit. And Dragon will reset after all of that. V7 picking up some good kills with this Jinx ulti. That burst of damage catching the Misfits side by surprise. As another kind of trade coming out of Walliford. All out comes through. Souls is just going to dash out though. And a flash forward from Walliford. Not sure if he has the damage, but is looking for the angle. Forces the flash out of Souls and the call of the Forge God. Looks like that'll be kind of the end of that trade. Another trade of flashes and another close duel out of the top laners of both sides here. As during all that, because of the chunk on the Lolcats, the kill there. Inside track for the Dragon, given right back over. As flash chompers go in from V7. The engaged Jinx going through, and a hook from Squeaksy onto Lolcats. Connects with the death sentence. And it is just that, as 2 kills picked up onto the bottom lane of Misfits. Just contesting where they maybe shouldn't have. As Zelda guy flashing out, ghosting out. Escaping away from this How I Met My ADC Kane, who is still not at form yet. 15 minutes in, just hasn't been enough action. Flash Cocoon sidestep from Sokka. Great reaction time, but the repel is going to be enough damage coming through. And How I Met My ADC flashing in with the slash, but it's not quite in range. And so Cyanic able to walk out of that one. Now 12-5. This team solid side is looking very good. Up almost 4K. Gold lead has kind of exploded over the past few minutes here. Just between a few random picks, the Dragon, and really just punishing a misstepping Rhaegar and Lolcats. Cocoon gonna go a bit wide, maybe a cocoon, maybe a dash predict. And oh my gosh, look at that little mid-air kill with the Storm Surge. Man, Cyanic Elise. This may be the pick of the game. Like, it's just, it does work. I've seen him do crazy stuff on it before, and just able to really propel his team to success here, even early on. Just 5-1-2, 7 out of 13 KP here. It's been good to see the Elise doing what she's supposed to do in the early game here. Kane trying to farm up, but just without any form stacks. Really want to see more action coming through. You're just starting to wonder, is it too late? You know, I talked about the mid game of the Misfits squad, but by this point, now 4K gold down, have you put yourself in too much of a deficit to come back to that, as you know, the scaling side of Team Solid, it is easier to execute on them. We've seen V7 connect with these ultis. It's been clean ultis as well, as Binding does connect onto the Jinx. Chain CC comes through. Ward onto the Lantern means V7 is not going to be able to escape until later, and the Ignite's going to tick down and end up killing that Jinx. The power of that Kate Moore, that Dark Binding ever lands. The Yordle Trap comes on through. The headshots come on through, and that is just your health bar gone. Be curious to see if either Thresh or Jinx itemize towards some sort of cleansing item here. I think this would have been a great game for Thresh to go first item Mikhail's. You know, when you build items, you want to take a step back and think like, okay, what is really the threat here? And in this case, it is getting Chain CC'd, usually starting with a Morgana route, could be an Ahri charm. And so if you're comfortable going that Mikhail's, that'd be a great item to have in future games like this, coming out of Squeezy, as that is the main way your Jinx is going to end up dying. Push down into the bottom side of the map though. Zelda guy getting some really good gold back. See kind of where the gold lead is. It's more or less everywhere for the side of Misfits. Just been able to skirmish more successfully, as another duel in the top side. Walliford and Souls battle for battle here. Walliford once again with the all out, trying to chunk down as V7 ulti going to fall a little bit short this time, but Walliford still looking for the trade. Souls with the Call of the Forge God is going to be canceled though. And another W unstoppable is going to bring Souls down to like 200 health. Flash forward from Walliford, not going to be enough though, as another clapdown comes through. Souls once again just barely getting the better of Walliford there. It's been a very exciting top lane matchup to watch. A lot of back and forth. And it really looked like Walliford had it, but maybe just took one too many tower shots. Right when that Brittle Breath came up, Souls just able to clap on back. Bellows Breath, excuse me. And once again, get another solo kill on the top side there. So I'm kind of looking right now at Misfits. Kayn does have form, did go for red form, so a little bit more kind of agency there in terms of itemization and like potential crowd control with the knockup, but a little less damage potential, which I think would have been nice to see into the squishies on the side of Team Solid. Dragon though, once again, who's first? It's going to be who gets it. This time we'll go over to Misfits, but great cross map on the side of Team Solid, maybe recognizing, okay, this is just second Drake, we don't need to contest it all. Picking up some of that standing gold on the map, as they have knocked down all 3 outer towers. It's going to be a good look for them here, as balloon that gold lead up to nearly 5k now. And going to leave Misfits kind of scrambling, I feel. You got to get a bit creative, start establishing pockets of vision, as by the time potential Soul arrives, I think you are outscaled. So you need to get some action going now, whether that be Morgana picks or looking on the side lane with Kayn and Ahri, establishing some kind of favorable number advantages. Definitely need to get the ball rolling. I see Souls 2 levels up in the top lane. Kind of by nature of those solo kills, you know, now has a 25 CS lead. It's just going to have that huge XP lead, and by this point of the game, I don't expect Walliford to ever really be able to kill Souls. Barring any drastic missteps, this Orin has now reached kind of critical mass tankiness, Squeezy also in the area. Hook going to connect off the knockup. V7 with the rocket in. Flayed into it. All out comes through. Cyanic Acid is going to help with the chain CC. And a flash forward to get to the blast cone is still not going to be enough for Walliford to get out of there. Squeezy and co. picking up a pick there onto an overextending Walliford. You see some pings coming down into the mid lane. As Otacon is up as well. 21.5 minutes into this game one. Looks like the call for now, though, is just going to be kind of set up around the mid lane. Zelda guy is hovering right now. No other side lane pressure, so is in an area to potentially follow up should any crowd control land. See Cyanic Acid going to continue to farm. Out farming the Kayn. And definitely kind of out proactiveness. More proactive? More proactively? Bit more proactive than the Kayn. Herald is dropping, though. This will force some sort of response from Team Solid. I like to see this out of Misfits. You know, force the card here. Use it to crack open a pivotal Tier 1 mid tower. As Rook connects onto the Elise, the Cupcake traps are going to follow, and that's going to be easy chain CC and a shutdown over to Walliford. As How I Met My ADC driving that Herald into the mid tower as well. This is the power of those picks. You know, I need to see some. I really want to see a Mikhails come out of Squeezy. Zeke's is not doing much on Thresh. You got to think about value added here. That's really the main way Misfits have gotten their kills in the past like 10 minutes. Just a binding. That's been it for the past like 2 kills. And now with this kind of agency, no jungler down, they are going to start the Otacon up. Super Mega Death Rocket comes through, but it's not going to be enough. And Zelda guy caught up as well by How I Met My ADC. Is going to slash forward, flash forward for good measure. And that will be mid laner down, shut down as well. The whole time Squeezy pushing the mid lane, so a bit out of sync. Our Team Solid here, letting Misfits get this Otacon and start to maybe crawl their way back into this game, as seemed to be on different pages about whether or not they were contesting or looking for a cross map in form of the mid lane tower. As Squeezy was just there, and as the support, you know, you're not really providing any split push threat, so you kind of have to be together there, whatever the call is. We'll see if they can make that adjustment come this 4th dragon spawning. Squeezy already establishing some early position, did get some wards down in the bottom side of the map here. Rhaegar approaching, is going to run into some trouble here, but root onto Jinx. Flash knockup from Souls. He's going to couch out Rhaegar a little bit, but there's just not going to be any follow-up. Zelda guy off to the side. V7 off to the side as well. That's Dragon spawning up here. 10 seconds. No Ornalt, crucially. That's a big engage tool for the side of TS, but a big Hwei ulti on the backside forces the Spirit Rush out, and now Walliford's getting chunked down, forced to flash out as well. Looks like Misfits are going to have to seed this Dragon once again. First one to the area is the one who gets the objective comfortably. You can see how these teams want to set up. Playing around the objective, establishing vision, and then utilizing those pockets of vision that they've created to really damage the others. But in goes How I Met My ADC, is going to get popped instantly, does not get the Dragon. Walliford picking up Thresh on the backside. V7 trying to kite out the Cassante, but the all-out comes through. It's a 1 versus 1. 7 trying to keep himself alive. Root on the top side of the map, but it's not going to be enough. Cyanic Acid flashes out, but the Storm Surge does come down. V7 with the reset. 2-man knockup on the backside by Souls, but the Charm's going to connect on the V7. Zelda guy trying to trade the damage back on Asaka. Souls on the backside as well, taking down the Morgana in the face of Lolcats, but the Root's gonna allow Morgana enough space to get out. Cupcake lands, Charm lands, Trap lands, the chain CC coming down onto this tanky Ornn is yet to fall. The clap comes through, but Bellow's Breath not gonna be enough, and a shutdown over to Lolcats as Misfits cleaning up the fight there. Team Solid get the Dragon, but lose 4. Zelda guy on the backside, though, answering right back. Explosive fight there, 26 minutes into the game. fight on multiple fronts there, as we see the power of the chain CC on the side of Misfits, as that's what was able to kill Cyanic Acid on the onset, while Walliford was kind of creating some space in the backside, forcing Seven and Souls to kind of kite them out together. But the damage of Lolcats and Sokka kind of hitting that whole time, able to eventually take down that Ornn thanks to some good spacing. So, and great CC as well. Hook gonna come through, be a bit short of a squeezy. So yeah, something to keep in mind there is Elise really just wasn't in that fight, you know, just got popped. I'd say the same with Thresh as well, you know, just wasn't able to really do too much there. It's tough fights to navigate when you get caught by some sort of crowd control early on. And now we're looking pretty even here. Just 2k gold separating these two teams. 2 dragons apiece. You know, we have Baron up. We have another dragon up in a little over 2.5 minutes. Be interesting to see where these teams kind of draw the line and pull the trigger. Ornn level 15 here, but the binding is going to connect onto the Hwei. Zelda guy just walking a bit too far forward. And like I said, this is where I need... Please, man. Walter White screaming from the car, like, buy the McHales! Knocked back onto Cyanic Acid, forced to go into the repel. Dark Binding's going to fall just short there. Yeah, it's just a free pick onto Zelda guy. Like, you can't be walking that far up when you don't have clean vision, as you're not going to be able to dodge that Morg stun. And from there, Squeezy Lantern's not going to be enough, as the chain CC can just come down too easily on the side of Misfits, who now turn their eyes towards the top lane outer tower. How I met my ADC in the Krug pit, but a hook is going to land onto Rhaegor, who is forced to pop the ulti, and is popped himself. As I say that, though, Cyanic Acid dropping dangerously low to the Baron. Sokka Sr. Spirit rushing on forward. Exhaust comes through from Squeezy, who flashes forward with the little prison. It's not going to really do anything, though. V7 trying to hit, but in comes How I Met My ADC to collapse on him. Knockup does connect, but Souls building space for that Jinx. And Zelda guy's back on the map now. So in the long run there, in the short run, a 2 for 2. Misfits still coming out on top, though, with that top tower and with an extra kill on Zelda guy at the start. Some aggressive flashes coming in from Squeezy. Rhaegor able to turn that one with a honestly surprising amount of damage on the side of the Morgana. I do want to point out, Rhaegor does have the Seeker's arm guard now, so is going to be able to build up a little more space for themselves after popping those soul shackles and get some good damage down. I think that's going to come in handy for this next fight. I expect it to be at the Dragon Pit again in about a minute's time. Jinx on 3 items with the IE. Caitlyn has the IE as well. Bit of a more defensive build from the side of Ahri, both Leandries and Ludens, followed by Banshees to keep her alive through Thresh Hook. TP's coming down. Soul's going to bring himself into the fight here. Has to stand strong as the front line and really build some space for Zelda guy and V7 to hit. I think the crucial thing here will be eyes on Rhaegor and see if any kind of pick ability can be caught, as Charm and Binding falling a bit short there. 5 seconds to the Dragon. It looks like Misfits are first to the area. That's going to be crucial for them in establishing vision and kind of starting to look for these picks as Dragon spawns. V7 kind of walking together with a 4-man squad. Zelda guy off to the side. I want to see him together as a unit, as a 5-man squad. Misfits going to be forced to kind of back up a little bit, cede a bit of ground here, as Hook and Fear connect onto 2 members. Walliford forced to dash out, but the root followed by the knockup onto Squeezy, despite the fact that he hit the hook, despite the fact that Souls has a 3-man knockup. Not sure if that's going to be enough to turn it, as Sokka Sr. flashes on in, helping build space, chunking down Cyanic very low, who's forced to flash out. Rhaegor flashing on in as well. In comes the Seeker's arm guard. Is going to be enough just for 1 stun, though, as Sokka looking to fill in with the damage. Souls not quite tanky enough for that. Charm goes wide onto Zelda guy, but with the Kayn in the area, it's not quite going to be enough as well. So much damage going back and forth between these two teams. 7 trying to hit under the tower. In the end, top support dropping, but V7 stepping on a trap, getting dangerously low. So much damage coming through from both sides here. A lot of aggressive flashes forward on the side of Misfits. Zelda guy sticking around a little bit long here as well. Charm's going to connect for the kill. Cyanic looking for a trade back onto Walliford, but in the middle of 3 people, not going to be able to do so. Falling down to Leandri's, burning him low. Lolcat's giving chase, going to hit the blast cone to get a little closer, but Cocoon comes through. Is the burst going to be enough? It is! Lolcat's getting popped by Cyanic. Pause comes through as well. As we have a disconnection. Bit of craziness there. Bad timing, but what can you do? So looking back on what was a crazy round of explosive fights there. Squeezy getting a hook early on, able to catch as we're resuming. Cyanic, I expect to fall here, or at least try to kind of trade it back onto the Cassante. There tends to be a bit of spectator issues with pauses and resumptions, so it can maybe take a while to activate here. Yeah, Cyanic in the middle of the fight here, gonna try to find his way out, but not gonna be able to do so. Walliford able to clean that one up pretty easily, and their eyes are gonna turn towards the Dragon with no jungler on the side of Team Solid, but Seven and Squeezy looking to answer back, kind of prevent that from being taken. Sokka Sr. getting chunked down by this Dragon here is just going to Spirit Rush over the wall. As this Dragon Dance is still going on, V7 kind of hidden away here. Gets the zap onto Sokka Sr. That will be the end of that for now. Kane in the area. Looking at kind of a 3 versus 3 here. It's going to be up to V7 to provide the damage right now. Zelda guy approaching from base, though, is going to be here by the time the fight starts. 8 and 4 on this Jinx, 3.5 items. That is the damage threat to watch on the side of Team Solid. But Rhaegar has been on point with these bindings. Squeezy kind of stepping a little too far forward along with other members, and from there the follow-up damage has been easy, so I'd expect another tense Dragon Dance. 32 and 33 minutes in here. As first little bit is established. Zelda guy, though, getting chunked by the binding, by the Piltover Peacemaker. Is able to clear the ward out, though. Got to be careful doing that, though. Dragon's going to be started up. Should be pulled out to keep things a little safe. Work with the space that you've kind of built yourself. Dragon down to 3k, 2k. How I Met My ADC is not going to be able to get to the pit in time. And now V7 with the reset, looking to kite it back. Loyalty comes down onto Cassante, followed by the Root. V7 with one reset. Souls Call of the Forge God onto the Kane, followed by the knockup. Super Mega Death Rocket just falling short, but Bellows Breath clap is going to be enough for that. Ari just going to play it safe with the recall. Not going to look for any hero plays. This Team Solid coming out big on top with that little trade of both Dragon and 2 kills, putting themselves on sole point, getting the gold lead a little bit back in your favor, but this just speaks to how close the game is. We are less than 1,000 gold apart, 34 minutes in here. I'm liking how these fights are playing out for Solid as of late. You know, let Souls be the tanky frontliner, build some space, see what Zelda guy can catch with his ulti, and then let V7 just hit, because once that Jinx reset comes through, you have loads of damage and loads of spacing. It's just going to be about not getting caught by these Morgana bindings, by these Ahri charms, these Kayn knockups, which can be tough. We've seen them kind of be a bullseye thus far. Be interesting to see if that kind of continues to be the case. Souls and Walliford, a little bit more back and forth. 3 items now on that Ornn, though. Don't expect Souls to really ever be a threat. Hook landing onto the Kayn, followed by the Chain Prison. But a trade of the binding back onto the Elise means the Kane is going to be able to just barely limp himself out of that one until the Super Mega Death Rocket comes through. Who else but V7? Dead on once again. Getting the snipe, and now with no jungler on the side of Misfits, Team Solid turning their eyes towards the Baron. And should be a pretty easy secure. Melting that one down quickly. And How I Met My ADC just having a rough go at it. Filling in. Doing what they can to kind of try to keep pace in the game, but it's tough. You know, once you get hit by a hook, there's just so much damage in this game. Really on both sides. So if you ever get caught out by some sort of CC, it's pretty brutal. You're really just not going to survive. I mean, we saw him build some good space with the Umbral Trespass, and a big part of that was Rhaegor able to kind of connect a binding there, but just not enough. And I don't expect it to ever be enough should a similar kind of catch out happens. Liking what I'm seeing out of Team Solid here, just kind of pushing their lead into the top side of the jungle. You have the Baron, you get the push, just take away some of these camps. Continue to kind of build that gold lead. Spell Shield comes down onto the Kane, though, who is getting massively chunked. Flash out is not going to be in time, but V7 walking straight into a trap is forced to flash out as well. See how tense this game is. One misstep from the side of this 10-kill 80 carry from the Jinx could mean disaster for the side of the whole team. But do still have the Baron looking to march on in. A minute 20 more. Souls was on the bottom lane this entire time, safely pushing. I'm at my ADC falling down for the 9th death here. Squeezy kind of leading the charge, continuing to fish for these death sentences. As Cocoon lands, and a big burst of damage coming through from both Zelda Guy and Cyanic. No real magic resist on the side of this Cassante, itemizing kind of exclusively for the Jinx here. I'm not sure how I feel about that one, especially the Thornmail. You're not reducing too much healing. And we kind of see it on display there. You just get popped. Call's going to be to reset. Now 13 seconds till this dragon. Things are looking up for Team Solid to come march this one away with the super strong late game objectives. GA on the side of V7, so that's going to help survivability. See Zanya's for Cyanic. Still no Mikhail's for Squeezy, but I guess it's just not going to happen. Maybe next game. Dragon's going to be started up. How I Met My ADC in the pit, maybe looking for a hero steal. Team Solid not going to allow it. Going to try to zone him out. 4K on the Drake, though, is going to be a bit of a flip. How I Met My ADC a bit too late. Goes in for the suicide steal. Doesn't get the steal. It's just a bit of suicide. But had to throw the effort in, as now this Team Solid squad is on Ocean Soul. So the survivability of the Ornn especially going to be potent and should be enough. Wouldn't surprise me if they're able to just kind of walk this one in over the next few seconds here. Sokka Sr. looking for a Spirit Rush forward. Does catch out Cyanic Acid, who is popped down. V7 kiting on backwards. Volaford walking on back with the all out. Another Spirit Rush comes through, but the hook connects from Squeezy onto Sokka, and that's going to be enough for resets coming through for V7. Pop, 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 pop. In it comes. Now focusing eyes towards the tower. Quite a bit of attack speed now on this Jinx. 2.54. Going to round it out. Going to hit the Nexus. And barely below 40 minutes in, Team Solid take game one. Where am I at? There I'm at. sure we stay updated here with Game 2 draft link. Guess it's just the same. Yeah. I did have the link open. I don't know. It's just not like loading for me with anything. So I was kind of wondering what was going on. But a good game one. I'm going to be right back. Going to take a quick bathroom break. Grab some water as well. Got to keep my throat available for what could potentially be another long banger. Be right back. Thanks, guys. All right, back for draft. Taking a look here. Thank goodness they got started without me, because usually this is what you see in a Fearless draft. Similar bands coming through for both sides. One thing that's a little interesting is Misfits opting for the same side, taking blue side again. This time gonna first pick the Nocturne. And that's going to be answered back with an Amumu. So Misfits shaping up for another dive comp. We do see the same bands come through. And on the side of Team Solid, Amumu and Braum going to be picked up. So once again, kind of telling me they're looking for maybe something a bit more standard in terms of what they're doing with... Oh, have a good night, CLT. Sounds good. Yeah, I'm sure people are going to be looking forward to that one. Caster Curse versus Bop It Twist It, two of our top teams early on here. But me zoning in back to draft. Yeah, Mumu Braum just telling me that Team Solid is once again comfortable scaling up. Misfits going to answer back with the Karma. I like this out of Rhaegor. He was piloting the Morgana pretty aggressively, but when you see the Braum pick, you want to pick something with range, something that can kind of poke it out. And that's exactly what something like Karma Ezreal is. You're going to force the Braum into a bit of a tough spot. I'd like to see them kind of maybe execute on it a little better than they did with the Caitlyn Morgana lane. I felt like they could have had a bit more shove and a bit more agency and initiative there. But with Ezreal Karma, once again setting themselves up for a very strong duo lane winning combo. The answer on the side of Team Solid gonna be the Misfortune paired up with the Braum. V7 went off on that Jinx, so a bit of a different look with the Misfortune, not that traditional hyper carry. So we'll see what that looks like on the side of Team Solid, but they are shaping up for a crazy wombo combo here. You have Misfortune Amumu. Curse of the Sad Mummy followed by the Bullet Time could be potent should anyone get caught in that on the side of Misfits. Second phase of bans coming through. It's looking like it's going to be the same thing out of Team Solid, an Alawi ban, telling me they're looking to put souls on another tank top laner. So we'll see what's kind of picked up there. I'd expect the Mordekaiser ban to come through on the second round of phases as well. There it is. Olaf ban from Misfits is a bit interesting. Kind of just getting rid of a bit more of a comfort pick for souls, I am assuming. No, Souls doesn't really. Souls has been playing some Olaf recently, so I think where that's coming from. But pick 4 here. We'll see if the strategy is to once again go blind pick Souls and save the counter pick for mid. I'm a little interested in what the plan is there, as I do expect kind of a beefier top laner and something more control mage mid. Is going to be the Gragas, piloting up in the top side. Another pretty safe blind weak side pick for Souls. You're going to be pretty comfortable in any 1v1 that Walliford tries to opt into. Nothing really beats Gragas, if you will. So we'll see what the answer is for him. A little Veigar action. I'm never doing that again. Veigar in the mid lane. And we'll see what rounds out the rest of the Misfits comp here. Looking like a Tom Kench. For the first time in like 10 years, or on the 10th birthday of Tom Kench, for the first time in the last few years, Tom Kench is actually not listed under like most picked top laners as of the most recent patch. So I thought that was kind of interesting. But I think still very pilotable in the top lane. Just not something we see as much anymore. As it's going to be a Nefiri locked in pretty quickly too to round out the draft. We are on an ad break, but draft is going to be mirrored anyway. Nefiri is kind of interesting because we don't really see Nefiri mid too much, and that's kind of the exact opposite of what Zelda guy was playing in game 1 in the kind of range space building way. But Nefiri mid looking to dive in, I guess, team up with this Amumu. It's a good pick into the Veigar because of the unstoppable. Kind of prevent you from taking a load of damage there. So I do see the vision. I guess I'm just maybe a little shell-shocked having not seen a Nefiri pick in a while. No doubt that it will be piloted to relative decentness. I don't think it's a bad pick by any means. It's just a little more unique. So yeah, everything's going to be mirrored here. It is going to be the Tom Kench top. into the Gragas. So Souls and Weatherford did kind of have like a tank handshake matchup last game, but it looks like, you know, they were still dueling it out. In this game, it's the same thing. So we'll have to see if, once again, they do end up dueling it out, or things stay a bit more tame up there in the top lane. Never know with the Rec League. Always some good action. And I love it too. You know, test your hands. See what you can do. Take on the challenge. As a reminder, both these teams 1-1. Pretty crucial game here. You know, when you play single round robin, you get to play each team once. I do like the layout of this league. I feel like you get a good chance to kind of see all there is to see that you would maybe want to see. And I think teams opting for maybe a little bit more even identity styles this game. You have, we'll jump in a 3-minute spectator delay again, but you have the Nocturne and Nefiri both looking to dive. And I feel like I'm a bit interested in this Nocturne pick. Typically when you go Nocturne, you know, you're looking to supplement that with additional dive. And this was a Nocturne B1 pick. It doesn't look like Misfits were really doing much with that. It kind of looks like they just drafted for individual lanes and comforts, which I'm fine with. I think, you know, based off last game, you did fall behind kind of early and in the mid game, so drafting something you're more comfortable with makes sense. It just, in terms of how those team fights play out, you may be just leaving your Nocturne out to dry, which can be a bit of a rough scene for how I met my ADC. You know, he definitely had his fair share of challenges there, getting the Kayn off the ground in game 1. So we'll kind of see how that turns out. But until then, dissecting the draft a little more as I do. Starting off with the bot lane, Ezreal Karma. We already talked. Great duo there. Super annoying duo if you've ever played bot lane. Ezreal Karma, they just have so much mobility between the Arcane Shift and the mantras that the mantra is the Karma E, Shield, and Dash. It's just really tough to ever get on top of them, and then the range that they have to poke, especially into the Braum Misfortune. Misfortune can hold her own in lane. You typically also build lifesteal on that character, so you'll be all right. But Braum, I expect to struggle. It can be really tough to comfortably lane and stay healthy into poke lanes for Braum, just because the only thing you can really shield is like one ability. There's no all-in that you're really preventing on the side of Ezreal Karma. So we'll see how that all plays out. In the mid lane, the Veigar pick, I like that out of Sokka. I think it's a good pick to kind of zone control, build some space in these team fights for the side of Misfits. And it'll just be a matter of keeping a safe enough position to do so without getting caught by the Amumu, the Nefiri, as I do expect this to be another kind of very explosive game on both sides in terms of the damage profile. Any missteps, anytime you get caught out stepping too far, you are going to be punished for that. Just, there's so much damage on both sides here. There's so much crowd control on both sides that you can use to catch out these members that it could be trouble. I have no problem saying that with that little conjecture. In the top lane, the Gragas into the Tahm Kench. I don't expect that to have too much action. Soul's going with the phase rush, kind of help the survivability there. And Grasp on the side of Tahm Kench, pretty standard. Pretty standard runes, I'd say, across the board. I think one thing I'm going to point to, Zelda guy keeping it interesting, going for the Ignite. So throwing down the gauntlet a little bit, talking about, you know, I want to snowball on this Nefiri. It's the counter pick. Came in on R5, the assassin into the control mage. See, it's able to execute on that, as Nefiri is one of those champs, just by nature of all the stat checking it does. It needs to get ahead, otherwise it's useless. It's a win from ahead, lose from behind. I know it's not always that extreme, but with Nefiri it kind of feels like that. So we'll see how Zelda Guy is able to kind of navigate that. Maybe team up with Cyanic Acid a bit. We saw that in the last game. The mid jungle of Team Solid teaming up for a few kills, a few punishments on Asaka Senior. But I would say overall Asaka Senior on that Ahri had the better of Zelda, despite the counter pick matchup. So we'll see how that plays out. I'd expect both junglers to look to full clear again. Mumu especially, just one of those champs, not really able to do too much until gets some gold and get some levels under his pocket. Same with Nocturne. These are two junglers that really shine at level 6. Until then, you know, not that they can't gank, but more so comfortable just farming it up between them. So we will see how that all plays out, as Tahm Kench waddling on up to the top lane. We'll let ourselves go into auto camera. Nocturne starting the Raptors, doing the leashless Raptors strategy. Amumu going for the red. So it looks like both junglers this time are going to be clearing towards opposite sides. Point Zelda Guy already getting the early push onto Sokka. That's not going to mean too much. And on the flip side, Seven and Squeezy getting the push in this lane that they really have no right getting the push into. I want to see Rhaegar be a little aggressive here. Trust yourself to have some good spacing, dodge some of these Braum Qs, and that will let you get the shove and start to build up favorable advantages slowly but surely for your team. But for now, it doesn't look like that's going to be the case. Panning up to the top side, Wallerford and Souls. Just some soft trading back and forth. You know, the only lane I expect to be really volatile here is the mid lane. Zelda Guy did go the Ignite. He's doing a great job of getting the push in this lane. So once that wave bounces back, and should the Nefiri choose to kind of hold it, buy some time for Cyanic to maybe visit with a gank rather than just keep shoving it, that could be where things start to break out on Team Solid's side. As Seven and Squeezy farming up pretty comfortably into this Ezreal Karma, so I guess it looks like they'll be alright in this bottom lane. Vhagar also farming up pretty safely, but is bleeding a few minions to Zelda Guy, who's getting this chunky and under tower, landing those Qs, you know, calling the wolves forward. Just some good Nefiri laning. That's where we see the early advantage being built up for Team Solid. On the flip side, Wallerford on this Tahm Kench is building up just a tiny CS lead for himself as well, but that's going to kind of even out once the wave crashes. Junglers on opposite sides, just going to trade the scuttles, nothing too crazy. It will be interesting to see where they look after this. How I met my ADC. Going to loop around into the mid lane here. But Zelda Guy, being the wiser, looks like backing up just a tad. Not quite enough though, as the Nocturne is going to come on in. Cage comes down. Zelda Guy going to be trapped in there for just a little bit. How I met my ADC looking for the fear. Is going to connect it onto the Nefiri, but Nefiri goes unstoppable and is just able to walk that one out. So Nocturne buying a little bit of space for his mid laner, letting Sokka farm up a bit more, but ultimately both junglers just kind of going to reset and go back to their regularly scheduled clearing program. Because, you know, this is Midwest Rec League and average game time is like 35 minutes, I can touch on the scaling now before we get too crazy into the action. I think similarly to last game, just on the flip side, really, you have this beefy top laner in the Tahm Kench that's going to give the scaling advantage to the side of Misfits. Just an easier front-to-back comp to play, ignoring the Nocturne. You know, Tahm Kench is going to be able to save the Ezreal or the Vhagar should they misstep. But before that, the amount of space that you're just able to buy between the Vhagar Event Horizon, between the Ezreal Arcane Shifts, I imagine they'll be able to kite out these fights successfully. On the flip side, though, we touched on it in draft. This Wombo combo is nasty on the side of Team Solid. They have the Amumu ulti, the Misfortune ulti, all layering in over top. That could spell some trouble should anyone be caught out. So it would be crucial that, you know, Walliford is either in a position to devour and save his allies, or that, more importantly, that his allies are really never in a spot to be caught out. Much easier said than done, of course. But that will be what my eyes are looking towards in these team fights, and that's going to be a similar setup as last game, where whoever is first the objective is going to be a bit more favored. A bit less potent, as there's less pick abilities, especially on the side of Misfits. They're so more looking to set up and establish zone control via poke, whereas Team Solid does have that kind of snap engage should they wish. As Walliford, Abyssal Voyage on forward, gonna get a few tongue lashes onto Souls. In comes the Devour, gonna spit him out under tower, forces the flash out from Souls, who's just gonna body slam, and that will be the end of that. So an ulti for flash trade. But Walliford, with this wave pushing out, maybe caught in a bit of a tough spot. Roam to the top lane, though, from both Nocturne and the Karma. Abyssal Voyage does land on the Souls, doesn't have the flash, tries to get the explosive cast in, but the chain CC is going to be enough. Trade of the Dragon on the bot side in the meanwhile, out of Cyanic Acid and the Squeezy Braum. Cyanic Acid also going to be able to get a little bit back in the jungle of how I met my ADC. And I love what I'm seeing out of Zelda Guy here. I love what I'm seeing out of both teams, really. That was a great support roam coming up from Rhaegor. Helped secure that kill. Getting some deep ward, but Zelda Guy covering it smartly, knowing Cyanic was invading in the bot side. Okay, let's make sure his red side quadrant jungle is still up, as Nocturne is naturally going to be looking for that. Now level 6 on the Nocturne, so Paranoia available. Going to be quite a strong ability over the next kind of 10-15 minutes in terms of giving this jungler some agency to really make some plays happen. We haven't seen as much as I would have liked out of Zelda and the Ignite and the Fury. You know, it's not exactly easy to get a solo kill, but you go the Ignite, you throw down the Gauntlet, you maybe expect some crazy action. Looking for a roam into the bottom lane. That's kind of the other alternative when you're not getting the solo kills is, okay, let's look to get on the map, try to make things happen with that. Grub's going to be started up by Cyanic in the top side as well. So already 2 out of 3 of those objectives for the Feat of Warfare claimed. Something to keep in mind as, you know, Herald will spawn in 6.5 minutes and Drake spawning in about 3 minutes time as well. Something to look towards is if this game does go late, Dragon stacking is a great way for Team Solid to really set themselves up for success going into it. Cyanic clearing out the control ward he placed earlier, and the Fury able to kind of chunk down a plate here. That's still a lane advantage, exactly what you want to see out of that assassin pick. Bit of damage traded back, and there's the counter pick coming through. You pop the call of the pack, you're able to just walk right on through that Event Horizon cage. So, like to see that actually kind of in practice, you know. There's always theory with the counter picks, but it's always nice to see it in practice, see kind of how it's executed. Souls with a knockback onto the top tower, as in the meantime, Zelda Guy going in, but is caught by the stun, so not going to be able to close out that kill onto Sokka, who just barely limps out of there with a little over 100 health. This top lane is really going in the favor of Walliford this go around. We definitely saw Souls get the better of him in game 1, but only marginally, just barely with a few of those kills. Mid lane, though, right back at it, kind of evening things up, which is why we see this even gold, you know, even pretty much everywhere, and then the 2 solo laners on each side kind of balancing each other out. Ping's coming down to the mid lane. A stun going in on Sokka Sr., followed by the Curse of the Sad Mummy. Sokka Sr. falling dangerously low, trying to flash out towards the top side, but Cyanic Acid flashing forward to secure it. Paranoia comes on through on top of the Walliford's TP. It looks like it's going to be enough to catch out Cyanic Acid. Now no flash. He did flash forward, so is going to be traded back 1 for 1. Squeezy roaming up, but just a bit too late to the play here. Nothing too much to be done after that. And Soul's able to kind of push the top side for free here. Crash that wave. Punish Walliford a little bit. Catch himself back up. 1 for 1 when all's said and done. Slight advantage over to Team Solid as they are able to push these waves in and kind of punish some of those rotations. But Nocturne looping around in the backside may mean trouble for V7. Flashes out of the Nocturne queue. Fear comes down, is going to be walked out of. Lolcat's falling a bit low to the bullet time. Able to limp out of that one, though. Back to the farm game. Dragon and 40. We'll see if a fight breaks out there as recalls start to come through. A fair share of summoners and ultis blown, so I'm not sure if Team Solid will want to fight this without their ultis. That's where a lot of their strength lies. I'll be keeping an eye on that. If they can buy time to set themselves up with these ultis. If not, they may have a tough time navigating the otherwise pretty potent zone control on the side of Misfits as Walliford gets knocked back in the tower, forced to flash out, and Zelda guy chunking down Socket Senior. So the solo laners of the red team putting in some work prior to this dragon spawn in order to set themselves up favorably for a chunk. Walliford walking on up, still pretty tanky enough where he can just eat any damage that comes through, and Souls can't do too much about it. Going for the Roa, going for the tier, so also looking to kind of just handshake that scale. This dragon is live now. Ulti is coming back up for a Mumu in about 10 seconds. This Misfortune ult isn't up for another 30. But mid push for Zelda guy. This counterpick Nefiri doing work. 3 tower plates pretty much solo thanks to pushing the Veigar out. A level lead means there is going to be easy inside track for a 12-minute second Drake over to the side of Team Solid. Top lane, more aggressive trading going back and forth, but it's really tough for Souls to kind of get that final tick of damage over. Squeezy maybe looking to bait a little bit with Cyanic Acid in the area. He's poking his head around in the river as Q-Slow comes through. Cyanic Acid still kind of looping around in that pocket there, but doesn't look like much else will result. Squeezy walking on forward. Slow does tag onto the Karma, followed by the Glacial Prison. It's going to fall just short. How I met my ADC with a Nocturne Alt Paranoia in the top side. Going to force out Flash from Souls as well. As mid laner showing face in the bot lane too. Zelda guy and Sokka Senior roaming down. Nefiri ult onto the Veigar, but is caught out by the Sun. Forced to go unstoppable. Bullet time mostly into the wall, but in comes Cyanic Acid. Curse of the Sad Mummy onto 2. Rhaegar caught out. No Flash now. Is going to drop down for his first death of the game. And now Team Solid turning their eyes towards the tower. As I say that, Squeezy going in very aggressively. Tanking tower shot there after the Glacial Prison land, Glacial Bite land. Souls with the solo kill in the top lane during all this as well. Able to just chunk down Walliford, who tries to go forward, but with the explosive cast back up, Souls building enough space, buying enough time for that kill to go his way. And Soul's really just working some magic on these top lane counter picks, or top lane tank picks. Keeping himself safe, and then punishing missteps anytime he gets the chance. More trading back and forth. A lot slower of a game this go around. 6 kills total, 15 minutes in. Nothing wrong with that. I didn't catch who got the feat. I don't know if there's a way to say that or see that. But for now, Misfortune going to continue to farm in the mid lane. My eyes are going to be on what Nefiri can do in this side lane. Already pushing in, has this tower quite low. forcing the TP out of the Veigar, but this is going to abandon the mid lane now. So when this next mid lane wave crashes in, who's going to cover for that? And, you know, bot lane tower, sure, it stays alive, but oh my gosh, it doesn't even stay alive. Oh, disaster class. But this gives you the inside track to Herald, to top lane, and Walliford's kind of left out on an island here, going a bit further than he should have. Soul's 2 levels up on this Gragas now. Really just playing the macro game, and Squeezy with a roam up is going to be able to secure that one pretty easily for Souls. Bit of a reaping. Nocturne showing face in the Rift Herald. There's the bullet time and the curse combo as Cyanic gets his second bandage toss canceled by the Nocturne spell shield. So their eyes are going to turn back to the Herald, which is just about resetting. 2.6k, it's just sitting in the river. I don't know what's going on with that. But Team Solid really leaving up to their namesake. They're looking just like that. They're looking solid. They're playing the macro game here. You have this superior side lane with how Souls has been able to build a lead over the Tom Kench, and then with this assassin pick in the Nefiri, getting the shoves, forcing a bit of a panic response to Cyanic, going in with the bandage toss onto the Nocturne. Ulti pops off the spell shield and the bandage toss connects, enough for Squeezy to pick up the kill. Back to my initial point though, you get these pushes on the side lane. You force Misfits to kind of make some panic decisions, you know, some questionable TPs, questionable rotations. And then it's a domino effect, you know, side lane power leads to poor rotations, leads to your team making good rotations towards the Herald, towards the top lane, you know, creating number advantages. And well executed by Team Solid, who have been able to pick up these outer towers, pick up these objectives, and even a kill to boot. Dropping the Herald now for that mid outer as well, which is going to help them greatly with the zone control as this Chemtech Drake is spawning in 10 seconds. Walliford going for the Abyssal Voyage forward, only catches one in Squeezy, and the Fury going to drift on out of there. Objective bounties popping up. This is how you know things have kind of gotten maybe a little bit out of hand for Misfits. It wasn't as problem last game, so we'll see if they can come back in what my mind is the superior scaling comp. Zelda guy caught out by the Event Horizon stun is going to go unstoppable through the Veigar ulti, so that's a crucial ability down. And Squeezy wants to smoke into Walliford. Stun connects at the Braum passive. In comes Cyanic Acid. 3-man bullet time over the top with the Sad Mummy. Zelda guy ulting on forward into Lolcats. Does connect. Nocturne Paranoia into the backline, but 7 able to flash out of that one. Rhaegar trying to build space for the rest of his team, joining him with a flash of his own, but Zelda guy is in the backline hitting comfortably. All the meanwhile, 7 able to stay alive, kite out the Nocturne and the Tom Kench. Cyanic with another bandage toss there is going to be enough for 4 kills just for 1. Team Solid wiping up that fight good. Eyes are going to turn towards the Drake here. That will be pretty easy for the taking, as we are now staring down a 6k gold lead for the side of Team Solid. We've just seen this Wombo come to play. You know, superior macro, executing on this 1-3-1 through the Nefiri, starting to build up this gold lead through towers, and then using those rotations to come and collapse onto the other sides of the map and set themselves up well in all these team fights with great combinations between Cyanic and 7. I think it's very clear just how coordinated they are. Sometimes that bullet times comes through before the Curse of the Sad Mummy. They just know they are going to connect on that, have that trust. Chunk going down onto the Nocturne with the Hound's Pursuit from Nefiri. Able to walk out of that Event Horizon. And so I'd expect Team Solid to slowly start to push this one in. You know, keep playing their 1-3-1 that's worked for them. I'd like to see the Gragas match the Tom Kench rather than the Nefiri. And that will allow them to continue to build space for potential picks, continue to make room for objective setup, which they have gotten every single one of so far. And if you're the side of Misfits, you know, you got to look towards your strong points here. I think it's still the Tom Kench, it's just pretty comfortable frontliner, and then the Ezreal. So maybe looking to make a power play with an Ezreal Karma Nocturne combination. You know, you can catch someone off guard with that, with the Paranoia, with the super-powered Mantra Inspire. the shield speed up, you can maybe pounce, and the target I would choose for that would be this Nefiri. You know, a bit squishier, so we'll see if they can pull off any successful punishes in the side lane, but until then, Team Solid comfortably in control. How I met my ADC, just going to be chunked a little, slowed down a little. Otacon is now up. It's going to be in the bottom lane. Zelda guy has no TP, crucially, so is going to be caught out by Sokka Sr. walking over the ward. So without the Nefiri with the TP, I don't know about putting him in the top side. You want to kind of keep him around should a fight break out. And they are establishing early control here. This blue bottom side jungle is still in the control of Misfits, but as Squeezy moves in with Zelda guy, I'm not sure if it's going to remain that way. Unbreakable, not coming up in time, and a Blast Cone bringing Cyanic Acid into the bottom lane here, and in comes the Nefiri, but gets canceled by the stun. Squeezy caught out by Walliford on the top side of the map, and now Soul's flashing on forward with the body slam here, picking up a kill. So 1 for 1, both supports down, but Walliford a bit caught out on the other side. So is Cyanic Acid. Paranoia coming through onto the MF, but this Nocturne is dangerously low. Fear connects, but is going to be popped after that. V7 walking straight into Sokka Sr. and Lolcats. Lolcats is firing Mystic Shot after Mystic Shot. Does have the spacing of Walliford in front of him. Walliford picking up the Nefiri, the Zelda guy there. And Cyanic Acid on dangerously low health, forced to retreat himself. As a big, messy fight going the way of Misfits in the long run there. Cyanic Acid on that engage was just a bit far out. So was Squeezy, just wasn't quite able to catch up with the rest of his team there. And in that chaos, the Misfits reign supreme. Lolcats and Sokka providing great damage over the top. And unfortunately don't have that advanced graphic check where we can see how much damage comes through, but I imagine Lolcats cleaned up with a few thousand there. Really laying in Mystic Shot after Mystic Shot, weaving in some autos there as well, keeping himself safe during all that too. I think one crucial thing is the Hound's Pursuit, the Nefiri ulti, got canceled by the Veigar Event Horizon, so that really did build space for the backline of Misfits to continue to hit. So now maybe a little more into it, a little bit of signs of life as Soul points, potential Soul coming up for the side of Team Solid here in 30 seconds, but they're looking for a pick onto the Tahm Kench first. Hound's Pursuit comes in, Braum tagging them up with the stun, Chain CC going to come in via the bandage tosses, and that's going to be enough for a crucial kill. Walliford overextending here, and now going to be dead for the spawn of this Dragon Timer. No frontline now on the side of Misfits. Soul's off to the side, doing a little fancy feet, a little wheel. Looks like the call is Sokka Sr.'s just going to sit in this top side. They're going to give the Otacon and probably going to give over the Soul. So once again, every single objective for Team Solid going their way. Soul's with a bit more fancy feet, picking up the rest of that minion wave. Tower is answered back by Sokka Sr. They are still in it. They're looking to scale, right? It's just going to be an uphill battle. How I Met My ADC going to be caught out by Cyanic Acid as Blast Cone pops him out of the bullet time ulti. Misfortune trying to flash out of the Paranoia. That's not going to work though, but How I Met My ADC is going to be pretty deep here. Flashes over the wall, but it's right into Zelda guy. Bandage toss followed up by Cyanic Acid means no jungler down. No jungler available now. No smite on the side of Amumu though, as this dragon is falling a bit low. It is going to be secured by Soul. Zelda guy into the back line. Snipes out the Karma with the Q and is able to kind of walk out of the rest, but Hound's Pursuit's in on forward. Lolcat's falling low, but the Devour coming through onto the Nefiri from Walliford is going to buy a little bit of time. It's just not going to be enough. Event Horizon building a bit more space. Explosive cast over the top from Souls. Sokka Sr. going to fall down. Walliford going to be next, as both carries getting a bit caught out, staying there a bit too long. And once again, Team Solid cleaning up around the Dragon Pit. Getting the Soul, getting a few kills, and sitting pretty for the rest of this game here as Soul's bouncing on forward. Bandage toss canceling the Abyssal Voyage. In comes the Bronze Stun, and it'll just be a matter of time here, just whittling down this frog. Kench is benched as Walliford falls down to 2 and 5. Souls once again able to just bounce back on this weak side top lane pick. And 7 turning their eyes towards the mid lane tower. That ADC is back in action now. All that without the direct wombo combo. The Zelda guy really getting online with the Nefiri there, able to dive in onto Lolcats and Sokka Sr. and really be a menace. A bit of a dog, if you will. So 4.5 minutes still, Elder. Baron is up. This is Team Solid's game, you know, to control. Rhaegar going to try to get some early vision, but I think based off how Team Solid is kind of setting up, they're looking pretty good in terms of, you know, vision setup, lane setup before going to these objectives, and then most importantly, team fight execution has been phenomenal. Cyanic Acid is almost always engaging with the team. There's great follow-up with 7, with Zelda guy jumping in. Souls is just great at creating space, especially on a champion like the Gragas. Abyssal Voyage on forward does catch Souls out of the body slam. Flash Root on forward is just going to connect, but I don't know if it's going to be enough. 3-man bullet time! 3-man Curse of the Sad Mummy! Bye-bye goes Misfits as Team Solid and V7 picking up that triple kill. Once again, the jungler and the ADC of Team Solid pairing up to absolutely pop the rest of Misfits. And it's a cross-map ace there as Vhagar was able to trade one back, but Zelda guy diving in onto Lolcats, picking one right back up. Baron over to the side of Team Solid off more phenomenal team fight execution. An easy Baron pickup, an easy mid lane pickup. Although as I say that though, does look like Zelda guy may have stayed too long. Paranoia forward onto the Nefiri, but how I met my ADC just not able to close the gap enough. And now could be in trouble as Hound's Pursuit on forward, followed by the Bandage Toss. Not going to be a tanky enough as Cyanic Acid. 5, 1, and 11, 16 KP here. Hound's Pursuit forward into like 4 people. Sure, Zelda guy, why not? Cyanic Acid buying a little bit of time for his mid laner to walk on out of that. Curse of the Sad Mummy is coming up soon. Glacial Fissure connects onto a bunch. Just a one-man ulti that time, but Lolcats was caught in it. In comes 7 for the damage follow-up. As Cyanic Acid falling dangerously low, Mystic Shot does come on through to get that kill. So shut down over to the Amumu, but once again, the macro side of things. Souls was in this bot lane the entire time, getting the push, setting his team up for success. Bullet time over the top onto Sokka Sr., building some space for the team to get the tower. Zelda guy falling down! The Wolves! They gave him aggro. Souls picking up the inhib tower. 7 picking up the inner tower. Still Baron on 3. Means side of Team Solid should still be okay walking this one in. There's now 3 inhib towers down. All but a formality, barring a miracle here for the side of Misfits. See, I mean, the angle is maybe you can catch off an overstepping side lane member. You know, MF is kind of the squishiest one by now. With Paranoia, maybe get some sneaky angle with the follow-up from Walliford, but it's going to be tough to do. As Elder spawning in a minute, Team Solid may just keep it safe. Look for that. They've had great setup, not letting How I Met My ADC get into the pit despite his best efforts. Just not too much the Nocturne can do there. Thanks to the superior setup. Hound's Pursued forward onto the Karma. Zelda guy just going to pop that support. And now looking for a bit of a collapse onto the other members here. Goes forward onto the Nocturne. The Hound's Pursuit is spell shielded, but Zelda guy still looking for more. Walliford slowed down by the Misfortune, making it rain a little bit. Event Horizon is going to buy enough time, but Zelda guy wants more. He wants to smoke. You know, How I Met My ADC, your only hope now is to just kind of try to get in the thick of things for an Elder flip. Just not sure if that's going to be able to happen. Baron finally wearing off right as Elder spawns, though. Team Solid going to turn their eyes towards this other big game objective. Why not another one? Lolcat's walking right into Zelda Guy as well. Hound's Pursuit on forward once again into plenty of people, but goes unstoppable. Not going to be enough this time, though, as he dashes over the wall, looking to get out. Paranoia comes through. It is going to be enough to kill the mid laner of the Team Solid squad. But Elder Drake is being taken this entire time. They're just building so much space that now with this Elder, it is a potent set of damage threats. Should V7 be able to get on top of anyone, even Souls with this kind of AP Gragas build. So we'll see how they are able to look to close this one out. See that Elder burn coming through already. Wouldn't surprise me if this squad just looks to brute force their way on in. Cyanic Acid leading the charge, looking for anyone who will give him that angle with the bandage toss. Will settle for hitting the inhib as well. That's just as good. Squeezy going forward, getting a little bit of damage down. The Unbreakable Will comes up, as well as the stun on the Walliford. Knock up into the back line. 4-man curse to the side of the Mummy. And who else is there to follow up? Of course, it's 7. Engage after engage. Cyanic Acid is there. And it looks like this one is all done and dusted. Cyanic Acid going to be a bit caught up. May fall here. Able to walk himself out of the route. But with all these minions crashing, with Elder still up for Team Solid, Taka Sr. getting caught out by the bandage toss. Little Q bounce for an Elder execute onto Rhaegor. E7 picking up another 10-kill game here. Souls sitting around, keeping those minions healthy, looking to hit the tower. Flash on in, and another bullet time. That Axiom Arc coming in handy. And 32 minutes in, Team Solid bouncing back strongly with a solid Game 2 win and a 2-0 victory. Clean from start to finish. Macro from top to bot. Every single objective secured. Well played to Team Solid. And GG to Misfits as well. Pretty decent series for this Monday night. Kind of look at the damage charts. Sokka Sr. putting forth a good effort. But this mid lane Zelda guy, all the diving in, and then this damage from all the MF ultis. Just a good spread from Team Solid. Really liked what I saw team fighting wise out of Team Solid both games. I feel like that's where they really drew their advantage. I think it kind of makes sense. That's why they drafted scaling. Enable yourself to be in a great spot. Trust your hands, trust your coordination when you team fight together, and it showed. Talking about Misfits as well. I think, you could honestly chalk some of that up to just some rough luck. I think game 1, Walliford had quite a few close angles onto Souls in the top lane. There was some lovely skirmishing going on up there. Some great dueling back and forth. Just fraction of a second here or there could have been the difference between a few solo kills and that Cassante really starting to snowball. Sokka Sr., Lolcats are a pretty good carry duo on the side of Misfits. You see them able to pump out this damage consistently despite this heavy dive that Team Solid was drafting. We saw it in game 1 as well with the Caitlyn, with the Ahri. Sokka Sr. able to kind of really love the initiative and the playmaking that the Ahri was showing in terms of spirit rushing forward, landing these aggressive charms, getting the fight started. And Lolcats, I think, just a pretty consistent AD carry in the backline. A bit tough in these games to really pop off and have those moments, but I can see the angles where if you can build space for this AD carry, you can make it happen. We did see that in game 1. Game 1 went 40 minutes for a reason. Any game that goes that long, it can go either way. Karma, Rhaegor, did like him a little better on the Morgana. I feel like something with a bit more agency was nice to see. There wasn't quite enough of a lead developed when you draft these double range enchanter supports that, I kind of wonder, is it maybe better to throw him on something engaged? Because we did see in that game 1, the Morgana pick, very aggressively piloting it and catching out 7 with quite a few bindings that did really stall that game out and keep them in it despite the fact that they were outscaled. And then how I met my ADC, I think just a bit of a rough break for the jungler of Misfits this game. Did what they could, but with picks like the Kayn and the Nocturne, if you don't snowball on them, they can be very tough to navigate. Those are champions you need kills, you need gold to really feel like you're making an impact. In the case of this game, too, they didn't really draft around the Nocturne too much. And in the case of game one, an early Kane pick and a late form transformation probably hurt as well. But props to them, though. Showing up on this Monday night. It was a bit of a long kind of start to get into the lobby, so thank you everyone for sticking with us through that. On the flip side, Team Solid, we can gas them up a little bit more. Like I said, team fighting was the highlight. Souls pretty comfortably sitting in this top lane, holding face, holding strong in these kind of blind pick, weak side top lane matchups and setting his team up for success with the picks that he plays. Cyanic Acid, definitely the driving force playmaking wise for this team. Loved what was coming out of the Team Solid jungler. Two kind of different looks as well, you know, this bursty Elise character versus the team fight Amumu. I think the Amumu was very well executed. We saw so many multi-man ultis comboed up with Seven following up over top. I think Seven's been a pretty solid AD carry here, especially in the late game, someone you can rely on to kind of bring you over the finish line. And with Zelda Guy, two different looks. This was really fun to see when you have, you know, Control Mage game one and then a straight Assassin game two, and piloting them both successfully. I think the biggest kind of thing I want to point out there is on the Nefiri, really able to push a side lane lead, which you don't always see out of Assassin players. You know, sometimes you just want to default to grouping up together. But because they were sitting together, because they weren't sitting together, this Zelda Guy on the Nefiri able to build up more of a gold lead in the side lane and enable advantages across the map. And of course, just clean map movement out of Squeezy and Cyanic to, I'm sure, enable all that behind the scenes with, once again, good team fighting all around. So that concludes this series. Team Solid taking it 2-0 over Misfits. Well fought on both sides. Believe Boppa Twisted Yankit Caster Curse is the final remaining game of Week 3, and CLT will be casting over that replay tomorrow. Not sure if he's doing that live, but either way, feel free to tune into that one. That is probably a show to watch, as those are going to be some pretty good teams. I think we have two of the three top teams just loosely based off the power rankings in terms of, you know, maybe what to expect at the top of the rec league here. That could be something to tune into. The Midwest Weekly Show will be dropping sometime this week. I know games were played a little bit later, so going to coordinate with HairWiz. Hopefully get that out to you guys in the next 2 days or so. Please tune into that. And any feedback, of course, always welcome. Direct it my way. Nexus Pleasure Casting. And thank you all again for tuning in on this Monday night. Have a good rest of your night. Bye-bye.